And then there was Baldwin, you know. We were all waiting outside the theater, holding our breath, waiting for Alec Baldwin to arrive and teach us that very, very important lesson about gun safety. You know, how to get to a set, how to address the armorer, what to say to the armorer, how to read through that very complicated manual with all of the comic book pictures of how to handle a gun when on set. You know, and what did we learn? We learned, this is how to do it. It's called the Baldwin Act. Okay. So next time you're handling a gun or even a knife and fork, look to Alec Baldwin. Think, what would Alec Baldwin do in this situation? And then act as if, act as if. So we're going to be going through Alec Baldwin trial, the Alec Baldwin trial today, guys. We're starting it at least. It's still running, of course. We're a little late to the party. Everyone else out there in the streaming community, they're all doing it live. Ooh, Paddy's Playhouse, live coverage, 8-hour video. Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And we support you, Paddy. But we just, we're not in that time zone. In New Mexico. I mean, who is? What do I know about New Mexico? Not that much. And the stuff that I do know is probably from, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. But one thing I do like is listening to a judge speak the jury through the rough outline of the process before they get going. And I love hearing that when it's not from a state that we hear all the time from, like Florida, like Wisconsin, like well, those are really the two big ones, aren't they? Ohio. Ohio we hear from sometimes. We also hear from Georgia sometimes. But really, the biggest states out there for crime, true crime, brilliant cases, jury instructions are Florida and Wisconsin. I don't think I've ever seen something out of New Mexico. So today, that's what we're going to see. But it's so funny because the judge, when she's reading the instructions to the jury, it almost makes it sound like some sort of board game, like the instructions for the rules and the logistics of the game. It's like, okay, the dice man is going to roll a 6. And when the dice man rolls a 6, everyone picks up a card. And when we pick up a card, the first person to have the name of a color on that card is the person to roll the dice first. And then they make their move. You're just sort of listening to it going, okay. So these are the rules, We'll get to it. But first, before we get to it, we've got to get to Alec Baldwin getting to court, which to my mind was weak. What is he driving? A Chevy? Well, didn't they have any Escalades in the, get an Escalade. Obviously, don't get a Chevy, especially that one. If you're going to get a Chevy, get a good one, not that one. I guess it's just a Silverado, right? But okay, but Johnny Depp had an Escalade, and it was a badass Escalade. Anyway, yeah, Alec Baldwin is not Johnny Depp. Oh, hang on, guys. A couple more people in the stream. I'd like to talk about how Alec Baldwin has obviously been through to a careful stylist. in order to prep him. Look at this. Look at this picture. Where is the picture? Hang on. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, hi, Neverly and C. Malone. Conrad Malone. Share screen. Look at this. You know what I was thinking of when I saw this picture for the first time? I was like, you know what? If you're an A-list multi-millionaire celebrity actor who's going on a trial, you know, for a serious crime where you need to look really sorry, obviously you're going to get a photographer, 3 photographers to come around to your house and just take a load of pictures of you. You know, even if you're going to a photographer and you want to get some nice, you know, LinkedIn shots, so you can look really professional with the proper lighting, and maybe, you know, maybe you're wearing a suit, maybe with a tie, maybe without a tie. We'll try both styles and we'll get a load of pictures and a load of different poses, and the photographer will say things to you like, okay, and now get me angry, and now look like you've just closed a deal, you know, and then do a thumbs up, you know, and point to something in the sky, point to a plane full of money, you know, and do all these things to create this reaction within you. And what has the photographer created in Alec Baldwin for this picture? And I know that this is a courtroom picture, not a studio photographer picture, but the point is that a stylist would have been through thousands of pictures with him to go, okay, let's try a different set of glasses, Alec. Let's try the I'm sorry glasses, the big round ones. Can we put the big round ones on Alec and see if that looks more sorry? And then let's try a pose where he's sort of praying with his nose and the finger nose with the big glasses. And, you know, then there's a team of people, creative directors, going through all these pictures going, which pose is the best for making him look really sorry? And this is obviously what they landed on. And I don't know, you know, it looks acted to me. And people say, oh, Metrix, you're being so hard on him. He's an actor. Of course he's acting. Well, you know, if he's acting, you know, what's all this stuff? Well, we'll get to it, shall we? I haven't really done any preparation on this. I hadn't seen any since this morning, but I did just watch a few minutes of this video that we're about to watch this morning, just to get acquainted, you know, just to feel a little bit. So let's watch it together, go through it step by step. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Welcome to everyone online, on the internet, in the computer. And yeah, let's roll tape, please. It is time to do that now. Where is the friggin'... There we go. Oh.
People who walk by who are curious, they wonder what's going on. Some people do know that it is actually Alec Baldwin's trial going on, and they've come by to just kind of look. He arrives here every morning with his legal team. Yesterday he arrived with his wife Gloria Baldwin, and his brother Stephen Baldwin also was here as well. He's an actor, not quite as famous as his older brother Alec Baldwin, but famous in his own right nonetheless. So they are here to show support for Alec Baldwin. But there is a lot of media here, a lot of international press, outlets from Australia, England, you name it. And of course, we also have, you know, the U.S. national press is here as well, along with local media.
Tell us a little bit about Alec Baldwin's demeanor. I know that you had a little interaction with him. Tell us about that.
What is with the Canary Happy Days Celebrity Mad presenter going, tell us about, what was it like? Did he smile at you? Did he smile at you? What the hell? Lady, this is a murder, or a manslaughter trial, okay? Chill out.
Is here as well, along with local.
Talk about starstruck. Tell us about his demeanor. Could you actually smell him? What does he smell like? I've always imagined he smells like cloves.
Media.
Tell us a little bit about Alec Baldwin's demeanor. I know that you had a little interaction with him. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you had a little interaction with him? Did he touch you? Have you washed your hands since?
It was just a brief interaction in the hallway, hi, how are you, that type of thing. But his demeanor is very serious. I mean, this is a very serious situation.
Yeah, she's bringing the friggin' news reporter anchor back to basics there. Like, yeah, what was his demeanor? Serious, not like a giddy schoolgirl. This is a very serious situation.
Well, along with
friggin' Tweety Pie over here.
Local media.
Tell us a little bit about Alec Baldwin's demeanor. I know that you had a little interaction with him. Tell us about that.
Can you believe that? What the hell?
It was just a brief interaction in the hallway, hi, how are you, that type of thing. But his demeanor.
Yeah, full disclaimer, guys. We are going to be watching this without me knowing, when Alec Baldwin, the movie, he shot the woman, the armorer, and all that. Yeah, of course I heard about it, but I didn't run and look into it. It's not really the Johnny Depp thing. I didn't know anything about that. I hadn't heard about his trial in the UK. The first I heard about it was in Virginia when they were going down with all the stuff that was happening there, because it's just not my bag to be gawking over some celebrity stuff. Obviously, it's not just celebrity stuff, but what is true is that often celebrities like Alec Baldwin, use their status, their power to evade responsibilities, like Alec Baldwin's been posing with his baby son. His baby son? Anyway, we'll get to that. That's mentioned soon. Wait.
Is very serious. I mean, this is a very serious situation. He goes into the court. He doesn't answer any questions from anybody, from none of the press. He barely looks at us or acknowledges us. He's got a lot on the line here. He's facing the potential of going to prison for 18 months. As you know, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the armorer in this.
Is that it? 18 months? I mean, what he should be doing, which I think would work out best for him on all fronts, is say, okay, where's her family? The woman that died, where's her family? Okay, what do they think I should do? Should I give up my fortune? Should I give it to charities that create awareness around gun safety? Should I sit in jail? What should I do? Because whatever they say, I'll do, because I have never been so hurt by something I've done, But of course, he's saying all the right things, right? Oh, I'm so sorry, but it wasn't my fault. Well,
case was convicted, and she was sentenced to the maximum of 18 months in prison. Alec Baldwin, it's a different situation because he was the actor handling the gun. He was told it was a cold gun, meaning that it was safe. But
has anybody got a link to Johnny Depp arriving to court in the Escalade when he's playing Hendrix? Not the only version I can find, he's got a reggae song. He's got Bob Marley playing. But the version where he's playing Hendrix, I think it's Axis Bold as Love is the song. Or Voodoo Child, maybe. I can't remember. But that's how you arrive to court. And, I just can't find a link to that. If anyone's got a link to Johnny Depp arriving to court in an Escalade, listening to Hendrix, send the link in the comments.
he does face the possibility, if convicted, of spending time in prison. And he's a 66-year-old man. So this is not somebody who has done time before. So he's very serious, very engaged with his legal team. And as you know, he's had some dust-ups with the paparazzi and the press in the past. He's had some interactions that have not been favorable, so with other people. So we've seen none of that so far. But there is obviously no, this is not a happy time for him. So there's no interaction with anybody really other than his legal team.
And it will be interesting to see what that interaction with the legal team continues to be as we begin today. And Jeanette, we so appreciate you being there. We will be checking in with you regularly. So go in there and keep us posted as we go. We will talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Okay. Thank you so much, Heather. I will.
Oh, wow. Well, what a spoiler alert. Udi, our moderator, says the case was dismissed because of Brady violations committed by the state of New Mexico. Okay. Just moments ago this was. Well, how convenient. Well, we're going through it. We're going back in time now, Udi. We don't know that, Udi.
It wasn't on YouTube though, but I don't want people knowing that. I try to keep that down low ever since the Johnny Depp trial for wanting pictures of my feet. Person y'all when maybe they want to be my sugar daddy and stuff on Instagram. I'm so sorry. It happens a lot. It's gross.
They're just people sitting around for too much time. I wasn't expecting.
No, like people are simply saying
I want a sugar daddy. At least one.
oh no.
On my leg. Yeah, they
Morning, Gloria. Hi. Hey, Gloria, come on over. Hi, good to see you.
Oh, this woman's good. This woman's quite good. She's representing the family of the lady that died, who are in Ukraine and can't get here because there's a war going on. But, the lady that's about to interview her is suddenly called away by the arrival of Alec Baldwin. And it's like, okay, yeah, wait a minute, lady. The big man's here. We don't want to show any favoritism to Alec.
Hi, Gloria. Do you have your mic up? Oh, he's here. Sorry. Yeah.
It's not even him. He's in the one behind. Hi, Mrs. D, our resident from the land of enchantment. You know, well done. You were at the trial yesterday, huh? How cool! How cool that you were in the trial yesterday, and now you're in the chat with us. If I was the news reporter from that show that was just on, I'd be like, "So, what was it like when you saw Alec? Was it amazing? Was it amazing to see Alec?"
Guys, please stay in position.
Mr. Baldwin, how are you feeling today? How are you feeling when they want to try? Mr. Baldwin, are you feeling confident? Mr. Baldwin, is this a fair trial?
Are you filming your reality show from jail? Is that the plan?
Are you filming your reality show from jail? I don't know. I think I gather from something that comes up later that he's been, his agent has signed him up for a reality show like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, something like that. If I was his agent, I'd be like, okay, how much money do we have in the bank? Oh, okay. Well, that should be good for, a year or two. Let's just not do any business, public or otherwise, until we conclude the case. Now they want Gloria back, for the interview after she was totally snubbed. Oh, he's here! He's here! He's here! Wait!
I'm here with Gloria Allred. Gloria Allred represents the family in Ukraine of Helena Hutchins, her mother, father, and sister. So Gloria, you're here in Santa Fe. We spoke the other day at length. You're here. You said the family can't come because they're in a war zone in Kyiv, in Ukraine. So they're looking for the truth about what happened to Helena.
That's correct. I represent the family of Helena Hutchins. Helena, of course, was killed by the gun that Alec Baldwin was holding and that fired into her, taking her life and injuring Joel Souza, the assistant.
She kind of reminds me of Shanann Watts' mother, Sandra Rusek. Just this kind of like dignity under pressure kind of thing,
Director. So we would like truth. We would like justice. I think there was justice for Hannah Gutierrez. So this is Olga, who is Helena's mother. This is Helena, and this is Helena's son, Andros, much younger.
Chloe, can you show us this one?
Yeah.
And what brings you out here today? Where are you
What brings me out here today is, and I will be here for almost all of the trial, is that
I will be here for almost all of the trial. Well, it's only 8 days, lady. And now it's not even that. You know, stay until the end. You know, the end is the most important bit.
Olga, Helena's father, Anatoly, and her sister cannot come here because they live in a war zone in Ukraine, in Kyiv. And it's very hard for them to leave the country. So I represent them. I represent them in a civil suit against Alec Baldwin. And he, through his attorneys, have attacked them unfairly, suggested that they don't have, never had, didn't have a close relationship with Helena, which was false, and we can prove it, and we will prove it. So we are going to be here. I'm going to be telling them what happens in court, and we will find out what they feel, if they feel that there has been justice. I know that yesterday, Alec Baldwin brought one of his 7 children. I know that he has apparently signed up for a reality show. This is not a reality show. This is a trial for involuntary manslaughter of a young, talented cinematographer. She had a right to be safe on that set, as did every member of the crew. Now, I don't know what...
She had a right to be safe on that set. That's a strong... You know, Mrs. D is as a resident linguisticist, linguinicista. You know, our resident linguinicista. There's certain things that are just phrased in such a way that they have so much more power. You know, I started going through the, just to myself, going through Russell Williams last night. And I just, you know, I ran out of space on the paper, all the notes of just like beautiful lines, beautiful word choices, where Jim Smith is just phrasing things in a way that's like, if you break it down, you just end up with this long list of components over his word choices, which are just brilliant. What did this lady just say? She had a right to be safe on that set. Wonderful.
Photographer. She had a right to be safe on that set, as did every member of the crew. Now, I don't know whether Alec Baldwin yesterday decided to make holding his baby, or his wife holding the baby, and then apparently handing her to a nanny. Or maybe it was a producer for the reality show. I don't know. But all I can tell you is, it is.
Yeah, his agent's like, Alec, listen, trial starts tomorrow. Where's the kid? Okay, we need a picture of you holding the kid and looking really calm and sorry, but like that nothing was your fault. And hold the kid, and then, you know.
As I have said previously, cynical and potentially a calculated public relations move to make him feel more sympathetic, or seem more sympathetic to the jury. Gloria, this...
Well, obviously that's what it is. And like I said, I don't have a particular opinion because I haven't sat through the trial. I haven't been through the case properly. But I can imagine Alec Baldwin walking into this budget film and saying, I want to have the biggest gun on set, and and not taking it seriously. And even as he sat in trial, part of him is regrettable. Part of him is regretting the fact that the young lady's life was taken and that he's now in trouble. But the other half of him is regretting it because everyone in Hollywood, all of his friends and buddies, they're going to be like, Alec, man, we loved not having too much gun safety on scene. It took hours out of the working day. Now you've done this, and we've all got to have these classes, and the gun has got to be a special plastic orange gun that it can never be confused with a real gun, and then it's replaced with CGI, and it's not the same, and everything's taking a long time, and it's your fault, Alec.
Is a child as well. This was Helena's child, who no longer has a mother. This was the grandchild of Helena's mother, Olga, and Anatoly. So let's not forget, this is a real case in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it has to be taken seriously.
And there's a report about if he goes to jail, he's going to film his reality show from jail. What do you think of that?
I don't know what his plans are. I don't care what his plans are, except if he uses this trial and his children as part of a reality show, I think it's sick.
Gloria, this meets the beginning. I hope that you said you've spoken to the family. How is Helena's family feeling today?
Well, they wish they could be here. They can't, so I'll be here. Olga traveled from 4 countries on the anniversary of Helena's death. She was there, and I was there with her at the gravesite in Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and it was just sad. Very, very sad. She can't get here right now. The war is worse, as you know. There's bombing of Children's Hospital. She's a nurse, by the way.
The fact that this reality TV show is being filmed, how does that make Miss Hutchins' family feel?
I actually haven't discussed the reality show with them. I don't want to add to the hurt that they feel. And they grieve every day for the loss of Helena because they had a very close relationship with her.
And you'll be communicating with them throughout the trial?
I will be communicating with them. By the way, they don't speak English, but we have a lawyer on our team who speaks Ukrainian and Russian, and what will be translated for.
What would the family like to see about Iran heading to go to jail?
They want to find the truth about what really happened. Alec Baldwin says he didn't pull the trigger. I guess we'll find out during the trial whether he pulled the trigger or not.
Gloria, what's your last name, please?
What's my list?
Yes.
Allred.
And you're a friend of the family.
No, I'm an attorney representing the family, meaning the parents and the sister.
Gloria, I just stepped up. What's the
I
main
do have
purpose
to
of you? I understand. What's the main purpose of you being here today?
The main purpose.
I thought, this attorney, this representative handled that really well. She's totally on her own, surrounded by all of these crazy cowboy hat wearing news reporters, and just handled that with some strength and some grace and even a bit of punch.
Hear what has happened in this trial of Alec Baldwin. And to remind everybody, there is a young woman who is deceased because he held the gun from which the bullet was discharged that killed her. We'll find out whether he's guilty or not. That's really up to the jury, and I respect the jury process. But no question he killed her. And I'll have more to say about that at lunchtime.
Cassie was entertained tonight with Cassie. Door. Let's see how it looks.
Where's Walter White? Where's Jesse? Los pollos hermanos. Hey, Citizen Kane shot over here. Look at this. Orson Welles. Wow. Peter Bogdanovich. It's like a scene from Paper Moon. Look at this. What an angle. Yeah, what if Neverly Darlin says, I am the danger. I am the one who knocks. You know, imagine if Alec Baldwin just went into a rendition of Walter White freaking out on an egomaniacal rage. Yeah, Mrs. D. I like that Miss Allred had no entourage, you know. In some ways, that's more strong than having a team of goons and 3 Silverados. Miss Allred drives a Saturn, a white 1991 Saturn. Oh my God! Look, guys! Two pillars. It's the temple of what was it? What was it? B and J. What does that mean? Joachim and I can't remember. All right, we need to skip to some meat here, guys. Oh, the judge is going to walk the jury through what their roles and responsibilities are. It's quite funny.
D101CR 2024-13, State of New Mexico versus Alexander Ray Baldwin. All right, jury, what are you doing? Oh, I have it on. So I have already sworn you in, if you'll recall, yesterday. Okay. And now,
Alec Baldwin is really doing his best to come across circumspect, in consideration and respect for injured parties in this matter, but he just doesn't come across well in the very little I've seen so far of him in court, sitting at his desk. He looks like he's thinking about being somewhere else,
Now I'm going to explain some trial procedure. First of all, I want you to know this trial is being filmed, but you are not being filmed, and you will not be filmed at all throughout the.
Yeah, Pueblo. We got Ryan O'Neal and Tatum O'Neal in the same movie, and loads of other greats as well. We got Randy Quaid in there. Fantastic movie. What a movie. Grifter movie. Old school grifters.
Within the courtroom, okay? All right. So I'm going to, this is a criminal case, as you know. I'm going to reread the grand jury indictment. It's very formal, so we'll go with that. Count 1, involuntary manslaughter, negligent use of a firearm, in that on or about October 21, 2021, in Santa Fe County, New Mexico, State of New Mexico, at Bonanza Creek Ranch, located at 5.
The prosecutor's going to say, yeah, Alec Baldwin was running around the set with this huge gun, using it to point at things, point at people, point at props, and I just imagine him sort of on set, cleaning out his ears with the barrel of the gun, or maybe using it to like poke an olive and then put it in his mouth.
45 Bonanza Creek Road, Santa Fe NM 87508. The above named defendant did cause the death of Helena Hutchins in the commission of negligent use of a firearm. Count 1 in the alternative, involuntary manslaughter, without due caution or circumspection, in that on or about October 21, 2021, in Santa Fe County, State of New Mexico, at Bonanza Creek Ranch, located at 545 Bonanza Creek Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87507. The above named defendant did cause the death of Helena Hutchins by an act committed with the total disregard or indifference for the safety of others, and the act was such that an ordinary person would anticipate that death might occur under the circumstances. Again, Mr. Baldwin is presumed innocent. The burden is always on the state to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. What I say now is the introduction of the case and the instructions. All right. Along with those instructions previously given, these are preliminary only and may be changed during or at the end of trial. First of all of you must pay close attention to the evidence. After you've heard all of the evidence in the case, I will read the final instructions of law to you. You will also receive a written copy of the instructions. You must follow the final instructions in deciding this case. And just so you know, there's going to be no transcript available to you. Juries have asked me that, so I'm telling you up front, okay? Again, the trial is expected to last 8 days.
No transcript available to them, huh? Is that a New Mexico thing or what? They don't get a transcript of what was said in court? Why? That always strikes me as funny with these newer states out west, you know. They feel newer when it comes to a matter like this, court procedure. You know, they have these, they've, I don't know, had more time to think about how they want to make the procedures or something. So they're always a little different than compared with a state like Wisconsin or you know, Massachusetts or old states, you know.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. That's the trial. That does not include your deliberation time. The usual hours of trial will be from 8:30 to 5, typically, with a half hour for lunch.
8:30 till 5 with a half-hour lunch? That's rough.
No, an hour for lunch. And then
An hour for lunch. I've never understood a half-hour lunch. What are you going to get done in half an hour? That's ridiculous. No one should ever have just a half-hour lunch.
morning break and an afternoon
Either don't have a lunch at all or take an hour.
break. Again, please report to the jury lounge no later than 8:30 unless we're instructing you otherwise for different reasons. But in your mind, you can always expect 8:30 to be here, okay? Do not come into the courtroom unless you are accompanied by my bailiff, Steve, okay? You may.
Yeah, Mrs. D, we just heard the news as well. It has been dismissed, apparently. Udi, our moderator, had told us at the beginning of this video that the case has been dismissed due to a Brady violation. Can you imagine? Now they've just thrown it out, and that's it. So great move to justice, New Mexico. You know, I'm not saying whether he should or shouldn't have been convicted, but at least we would have sorted it out in court, you know, rather than this, which is just a total anti-climax. Not to mention, this was our full week planned for the next week on True Crime Metrix. Now we're going to have to come up with something new, I guess.
Take water into the courtroom with you, and you can also take coffee or tea or if you have a lid on your cup, okay? We stand up out of respect for you because you are the ultimate decision makers as to the facts in this particular case. So when you come into the courtroom, you can go ahead and be seated, and then we will take our seats. And again, it's important to hear. So please raise your hand at any time you can't hear. Don't be self-conscious about it. Don't wait until a couple of questions have been asked. You've got to, if you can't hear, you've got to shoot that hand up right away, okay? All right, this is a public proceeding, so people may go in and out. You may find yourself looking at
Who's the woman here? Is that Alec Baldwin's wife or something? Anyone know?
who goes in and out, but after a while, you'll get used to it. But if there is anything that is distracting you from being able to listen and be involved in this case, please tell Steve immediately. He'll let me know, and I'll do my best to get rid of.
Please tell Steve immediately. Listen, this is a court of law. Either call him the bailiff or use a proper full name. Not Steve. We don't want to tell Steve anything, okay? If anything is preventing you from finding justice, be sure to let Steve know. And Steve will tell me.
The distraction. As you know, the temperature we cannot control. All right, so.
The temperature we cannot control. Oh, great. good 2 weeks coming up. Hot courtroom in a July, New Mexico, in Santa Fe. Great.
Sorry, we'll try to get the county in here if it plummets too high. I doubt it'll plummet too low. You are allowed but not required to take notes during trial. Steve has given you a pad and a pen. Okay. Please put your name on the front page of your pad and then take.
Has he given them a pad or a pen or both? Steve, what have you done now, Steve? We gave you one job to do, Steve, okay? Give the jury a pen and a pad, because they're you can't have one without the other, okay? One without the other is useless, Steve, okay? Pens and pads. Got it, Steve?
Take notes beginning on the second page. On breaks, follow Steve's instruction on whether to take the pad with you or whether to leave it on your chair. You don't have to worry about confidentiality. They'll be locked up at night, and when the trial is finished, they'll be shredded. Okay. Don't let your notes take the place of your independent memory of the evidence. When taking notes, please do not forget to pay close attention to the trial. Listening and watching witnesses during their testimony will help you assess their appearance, behavior, memory, and whatever else bears on their credibility. Let's go through the order of trial for those that have not engaged.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in general terms, old Pueblo Hops, who says, old Pueblo says, he'll say it, convicted. It's his ship. He's the captain. He's responsible. Well, I don't know if it is his ship. I mean, it would be the director, but wouldn't it? I don't know. But he's very experienced. He's been in the industry for more than my entire life. You know, he should know better, and he should be an example to others, right? But I think he was just fucking around too much. And yeah, 99.9% of the time, most every other actor would be as well. And it wouldn't be an issue, but it was an issue here, right?
Criminal.
But we're also going to give it fairness and look at the opening statements, listen to the points each side are going to raise, and try and see and comment on what supports or goes against the state's argument and the defense's position.
Trial before. A criminal trial generally begins with the lawyers telling you what they expect the evidence to show. These statements and the statements made by the lawyers during the course of the trial can be of considerable assistance to you in understanding the evidence as it is presented at trial. Is there something distracting you, juror?
No.
I'm talking to the other one. Okay. Statements of the lawyers, however.
Man, does she have a glass eye or what? Is there something distracting you, juror? No, I'm talking to the other one. Are there only two? Where's Steve? Did Steve not bring them all in?
Are not themselves evidence. The evidence will be the testimony of the witnesses, exhibits, and any facts agreed to by the parties. After you have heard all of the evidence, I will give you final instructions on the law. The lawyers will argue the case, and then you will retire to the jury room to arrive at a verdict. It is my duty to decide what evidence you may consider. Your job is to find and determine the facts in this case, which you must do solely upon the evidence received here in court. It is the duty of a lawyer to object to questions, testimony, or exhibits the lawyer believes may not be proper, and you must not hold such objection against the objecting party.
See, doesn't this read like the instructions for a board game? You know, imagine it's the holidays, family table, someone's got a new board game, and we all decide to play. but no one's played it before. So we read the instructions really carefully. Someone does, right? Okay, so the lawyer's responsibility is to object and ask questions as to the amount of evidence that will be allowed to be permitted to come into trial. You know, it doesn't feel very grown up in New Mexico. You know, compared to those old states, compared to old Mexico, compared to Wisconsin, compared to Massachusetts, where everything is fair.
I will sustain objections if the question or evidence sought is improper for you to consider. If I sustain an objection to evidence, you must not consider such evidence, nor may you consider any evidence I have told you to disregard. By itself, a question is not evidence. You must not speculate about what would be the answer to a question that I rule cannot be answered. It is for you to decide whether the witnesses know what they are talking about and whether they are being truthful. You may give the testimony of any witness whatever weight you believe it merits. You may take into account, among other things, the witness's ability and opportunities to observe, memory, manner, or any bias or prejudice that the witness may have, and the reasonableness of the testimony considered in light of all of the evidence of the case. No ruling, gesture, or comment I make during the course of the trial should influence your decision in this case. At times, I may ask questions of witnesses. If I do, such questions do not in any way indicate my opinion about the facts or indicate the weight I feel you should give to the testimony of the witnesses. Questions by jurors. Ordinarily, the attorneys will develop.
Yeah, Neverly Darling says, have you noticed how much cussing is going on by the lawyers in trials lately? When quoting, of course, still. Yeah, I support that completely. I was watching a bit of Michael Dunn this morning, and he's going, I mean, yeah, okay, it's the witness talking, but, you know, they all do it in the trial. It's quite a strange trial. It's in a courtroom in Florida, in Duval County, where it just seems like even more official than an official courtroom somehow. I don't know. And Michael Dunn's saying things like, no, he called me an MFer, and I wanted to know if I was that MFer. You know, come on, man. Say motherfucker. Get some balls.
All pertinent evidence. It is the exception rather than the rule that an individual juror will have an unanswered question after all of the evidence is presented. However, if you feel an important question has not been asked or answered, write it down on a piece of your notepaper and give it to Steve before this is important, before the witness leaves the stand. Okay? I will decide whether or when your question will be asked. Rules of evidence or other considerations apply to questions you submit and may prevent the question from being asked. If the question is not asked, please do not give it any further consideration. Do not discuss it with the other jurors, and please do not hold it against either side that you did not get an answer. Conduct of jurors.
Oh, okay, old Pueblo. I didn't know he was the EP, the executive producer as well. Well, yeah, then it's his ship. You know, shame, you know, I didn't look into the case. I'd heard about it, obviously, but yeah, that was it. Celebrity crime just doesn't really do it for me. But there was some calls to look at the Alec Baldwin trial last night, and that's what we're doing.
Again, very important. You must decide the case solely upon the evidence received here in court. You must not consider anything you may have read or heard about the case outside the courtroom. During the trial and your deliberations, you must avoid news accounts of the trial, whether they be on radio, television, the internet, or in a newspaper or other written publication. You must not visit the scene of the incident on your own. You cannot make experiments with reference to the case, and in this day and age, you cannot Google or research any of the subject matter of this case. Until you retire to deliberate the case, you must not discuss this case or the evidence with anyone, including each other. Very important, as I said yesterday, when you go in that room, you don't talk about the case. You wait until you are a jury that is deliberating, okay? If an exhibit is admitted in evidence, you should examine it yourself and not talk about it with other jurors until you retire to deliberate. It is important that you keep an open mind and not decide any part of the case until the entire case has been completed and submitted to you. Your special
Has everybody seen 12 Angry Men?
responsibility as jurors demands that throughout this trial, you exercise your judgment impartially and without regard to any sympathy, bias, or prejudice. To minimize the risk of accidentally overhearing something that is not evidence in this case, please continue to wear your jurors' badges while in and around the courthouse. If someone happens to discuss the case in your presence, report that fact immediately to Steve. Although it is natural to visit with people you meet, please do not talk with any of the attorneys, parties, witnesses, or spectators, either in or out of the courtroom. If you meet in the hallways or elevators, there's nothing wrong with saying a good morning or a good afternoon, but your conversation should end there. If the attorneys, parties, and witnesses do not greet you outside of court or avoid riding in the same elevator with you, they're not being rude. They are just carefully observing. All right, so
1975, Neverly? It's more like 45. What is... It's Henry Fonda. 12 Angry Men. 57. Or maybe you meant not 75, but 57. Is that right?
we're going to begin the case. The case starts with opening statements. The state begins first because they have the burden of proof, and then the defendant. All right, go ahead, counsel.
Judge, just one quick housekeeping matter while Ms. Johnson's getting set up.
All right.
I want to see the 1975 version now. That'd be great. You know, they should do one every year. You know, with a jury. Okay, you know how we never get to see the jury or the deliberation rooms in all these cases that we study, guys. The biggest, most important, definitive part of the entire trial, we never get to see any of it. And the stuff that we do see in most movies of a jury deliberation room is usually pretty much the same. But 12 Angry Men is special and a good life lesson in general. Isn't he a ghost? Is Henry Fonda a ghost? Oh, here we go. This is opening statements, guys. Yeah. And they're both pretty good. I listened to them this morning. I didn't watch them, though. It was just on in the background. Let's see what they say. John Duncan. How you doing, John? Yeah, I like that, old Pueblo. 12 Angry Men is Donna's jury's nickname. 12 angry apes. You know. 12 furious apes.
Thank you.
What was Alec Baldwin doing? What was Alec Baldwin doing? Yeah, let me lean over and review this justice with you. And we're reviewing the justice. The jury will see us reviewing the justice. And then back to opening statements.
Thank you. Good morning. When someone plays make-believe.
I know, C. Malone. this Steve character, the ever elusive Steve, if we don't see him before this trial bails, that will be the real crime. You know, I want to know what he's wearing. I want to know everything about Steve. You know, what he had for breakfast, what he's thinking about having for lunch, and what he actually gets for lunch.
With a real gun in a real life place.
Missed the first word. Okay, ready for prosecution. Opening statement. State of New Mexico v. Alec Baldwin.
Good morning. When someone plays make-believe with a real gun in a real life workplace, and while playing make-believe with that gun violates the cardinal rules of firearm safety, people's lives are endangered, and someone could be killed. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what this case is about. It's simple, straightforward. The evidence will show that someone who played make-believe with a real gun and violated the cardinal rules of firearm.
See, by phrasing it as playing make-believe, she's projecting a level of immaturity, childlike stuff onto Alec Baldwin and the situation. Play make-believe. There's 1,000 ways that she could have said the same thing without this making it sound like a child's game, playing make-believe, playing dress-up, right?
Firearm safety.
You could have said it in a way that just made it sound really specialist, professional, you know, like when you're in an advanced acting role, you know, when you're playing make-believe like a little kid.
Is the defendant, Alexander Baldwin. You will hear over the course of the next few days that in the fall of 2021, a movie called Rust began filming at the Bonanza Creek Ranch just south of Santa Fe in Santa Fe County. You will learn that this movie was a Western with a lot of gun action. And while it was a movie set, it was a real life workplace for many people. But you will hear this workplace was on a tight budget. And you will learn.
Yeah, tight budget. The armorer was like, okay, we need to save costs. So these blank ammunition rounds, what do they cost per? $1.12, okay. And the live rounds, what do they cost per? 12 for 10 cents. Well, who's going to know the difference, really? Just put the live rounds in and don't tell anyone.
That some of the people who were hired to work at this workplace were very inexperienced. And one of those was the armorer.
Inexperienced. Again, this is a case of responsibility, and she's appealing to the jury's sense of being a reasonable adult, right? What does she just say? Very inexperienced, playing make-believe. These are all maturity issues, right? And she's not showing any signs of immaturity herself, is she? She's not got any intimidation whatsoever to be up against this celebrity. No faulting in her voice, nothing. Strong.
A very young woman named Hannah Gutierrez Reed. You will hear testimony from crew members who worked on the set, who will tell you.
Perfect Spanish pronunciation's not bad either, huh? But we are in Santa Fe. I mean, Jesus Christ.
That to them, Ms. Gutierrez's inexperience was obvious. You will also learn that this workplace has some talented people. And one of those was the director of photography, a vibrant 42-year-old rising star named Helena Hutchins. You will also learn that the director of this film was Joel Souza, another talented individual who cares deeply.
You see that? The sneeze of guilt.
Was Joel Souza, another talented individual.
Double sneeze. Double Delaware Dover double bun sneeze.
Who cares deeply for his projects. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that like in many workplaces, there are people who act in a reckless manner and place other individuals in danger and act without due regard for the safety of others. That, you will hear, was the defendant, Alexander Baldwin, the lead actor on this film. You will learn that this movie began filming on or about October 6, 2021. But the defendant did not arrive on set to begin working until about October 13. And you will learn that prior to arriving on the set to work, he requested to be assigned the biggest gun available. So he was assigned this revolver.
That's it? That's the biggest gun available? Well, I mean, it's a big handgun. Maybe that's what he meant. Okay, well, it is pretty long. Does anyone have one of those?
Replica of an 1873 single-action revolver manufactured by Pieta Firearms in Italy. You will hear from Alessandro Pieta.
Is that good? Is that like a really good gun? Italy, huh?
Who will tell you he manufactured this gun. And he will tell you he manufactured it in 2015. And he will explain the quality control measures that Pieta Firearms follows in order to ensure that firearms that are manufactured by Pieta Firearms don't have any problems or issues. Mr. Pieta will tell you that this firearm he himself manufactured, and that when Pieta sent it to EMF, which is the company that distributes firearms for Pieta Firearms in the United States, this gun was in perfect working condition. You will hear from Justin Neal, who is a representative of EMF, a company out of California that has historically been known to provide firearms to the movie industry. Mr. Neal will tell you that when EMF received this firearm in 2017, it was in perfect working order. And in fact, when EMF had this firearm, it was subjected to numerous quality control inspections because it was used as a show gun at gun shows. The evidence will show that in September of 2021, an individual by the name of Seth Kenny was contacted by the folks with Rust Production. They asked Mr. Kenny if he would be able to provide some firearms for the filming, for use during the filming of Rust. You will learn that Mr. Kenny owns PDQ Firearm and Prop. It's a duly licensed firearms dealership. Mr. Kenny then contacted EMF and ordered several single-action replica revolvers. And in September, or on September 29, 2021, Mr. Kenny purchased this gun. And you will hear that Mr. Kenny received it from EMF, and it was in perfect working order. The only thing that Mr. Kenny did to this gun was to insert the firing pin, because since it was a show gun, it didn't have a firing pin. But you'll learn that that's a very easy step. All he had to do was just insert the pin, and that's it. And then Mr. Kenny had the firearms, this one and some other firearms, transferred to the set of Rust at the Bonanza Creek Ranch. And on October 13, 2021, the defendant was supposed to have a training session with this gun and this young armorer. But you will see that during this training session, the defendant had somebody or a couple of people filming him while he's running around shooting this gun. You will learn, ladies and gentlemen, or you'll hear during this trial,
It just sounds like he was being a bit of a dick on set, you know, running around, being filmed with the gun. I want the biggest gun. I want the biggest gun, you know, because I'm the big guy on set, so I get the biggest gun, right? You know, he's pointing it at people. Just like total abandonment of professional gun safety precautions, right? And I'm no health and safety fanatic, you know, at all. But there's definitely a limit to what is tasteful, right? You should be safe. You don't need to go nuts. But, you know, don't run around the set with the biggest gun on set, pointing it at staff. That's past the limit, okay?
use of the words prop gun. And you'll learn a prop gun is this real gun. It's not a toy. It's not made of rubber. It's a real gun. You will also see evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that during the days before that fateful October 21st day, the defendant handled this firearm multiple occasions. You will see video footage of the defendant firing this firearm, working perfectly fine. But you'll see evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that each time the defendant handled this firearm, he did not do a safety check with that inexperienced armorer. And you'll hear that the reason he didn't do a safety check is because he didn't want to offend her. The evidence you will see will paint a real-life picture of a real-life workplace where this defendant mishandled this gun. You will see him using this gun as a pointer to...
Y'all want to see old Pueblo Hops' gun here? Look at that. I mean, that is a goddamn hand cannon. I think that's it, Pueblo. You know, I just looked up what you typed. Nuts. 16 inches, is that? Yeah. Wow. Bet it's loud. Oh, is it from whatever that movie is? The Good, the Bad? No. What movie is that? Who knows what movie that is? Anyway, back to the show. Oh, hang on, guys. Just got to get the audio back here. One second, guys. See, this is what happens when you switch tabs, right? It all goes wrong. And then it all backfires on me. Sarah Boone. Can you wait for that to start? Do you think it's really going to happen, guys? Do you think on the 7th of October, we're just going to be watching Sarah Boone give her own pro se opening statement to a jury of her peers in her own defense? I mean, come on. That's too good to be true. I still am doubtful that we should be so lucky as to witness that. But imagine if it just happens. I mean, it's only what, August, September, October. God, that went by quick, didn't it? 2024. Yeah, so that's going to be here real quick. That's less than 3 months away. Share screen, browse.
Point at people, to point at things. You will see him cock the hammer when he's not supposed to cock the hammer. You will see him put his finger on the trigger when his finger's not supposed to be on the trigger.
Yeah, I think it was Fistful of Dollars, Neverly. Now I want to actually look it up. We've got to find out. Because in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he's wearing a poncho. Oh, it's just called The Outlaw Josie Wales, which is what Old Pueblo said a while ago. But I thought he was just talking about an outlaw called Josie Wales. Or Wallace. Wales. It's a cool name. Anyway, back to the show, guys.
You will hear about numerous breaches of firearm safety with this defendant and this use of this firearm. And the evidence will show that on the morning of October 21st, 2021, the camera crew walked off set. And you will learn that one of the reasons that camera crew walked out is because they were concerned over safety breaches with the use of firearms.
That's bad, isn't it? That's like Michael Draker being in court for shooting someone because they parked in a handicapped space, and then the prosecution keeps bringing up this story about an incident that happened 5 months earlier where he threatened to shoot someone for parking in a handicapped space. You just don't want that proximity in trial, do you?
The evidence will show that the morning of October 21st started out a couple of hours behind. They filmed some scenes at this church on the Bonanza Creek Ranch. And you will see that one of those scenes required the defendant to pull out his gun. This was in the morning. Pull out his gun, and you'll hear the director tell him, pull it out and hold it. And the first time, you'll see evidence the defendant does what the director tells him. But you will hear the director tell you that many times the defendant would do his own thing. So then the director in the morning asked him, okay, do it again, just like you did now. The defendant pulls out the gun, but this time he cocks the hammer. The evidence will show they then broke for lunch. And around 1:30 or so, they came back to this church to do what's called a blocking. The evidence will show that Ms. Hutchins wanted to do a blocking for an insert. And you will learn what a blocking is, just working out the details of the moves of the actor. Wasn't even a rehearsal. You will hear from one of the witnesses who walked into the church and saw the defendant kind of playing with his gun. And then you will see evidence or hear evidence.
Yeah, I think Stephen Baldwin's done a lot more cocaine.
That Ms. Hutchins and Mr. Souza were talking to the defendant about doing this insert. And the insert was just supposed to be from here to here. And it was supposed to be of the defendant just slowly taking his gun out of his holster, and just holding it at an angle. The evidence will show that someone asked the armorer to bring the defendant's gun to him. And she did. She brought it into the church, showed it to David Halls, who you will learn was the first assistant director. The gun was empty. Ms. Gutierrez then handed the gun to the defendant. But then you will hear that Ms. Gutierrez was given the gun back, and she took it and loaded it with dummy rounds. And what you will learn is that dummy rounds are inert rounds. They look like real rounds, but they are very easy to tell that they are not because they'll rattle. Ms. Gutierrez then went back to the church, showed the revolver to the first assistant director very fast. They only checked about 3 rounds, very quick. And they missed 1 round. You will learn that one of the rounds in that revolver was a real round. And the evidence will show that Ms. Gutierrez then handed the gun to the defendant. And what you will learn is that once again, the defendant failed to do a gun check or a safety check with this armor. So he takes the firearm.
Listen, lady, this is Alec Baldwin. He's been in the game for 40 years or more. He doesn't need to do a check. He's not a rookie.
Puts it in his holster. Then Ms. Hutchins and Mr. Souza were doing this blocking. And the evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that the defendant, again, did his own thing. You will hear from an individual by the name of Kent Jorgensen. Mr. Jorgensen will tell you that he's been involved in drafting and revising movie set safety rules. You will learn that these movie set safety rules require actors, like the defendant, to treat every firearm as though it's loaded, to never point a firearm at another person, and to never put your finger on the trigger unless you're prepared to shoot or to destroy whatever's in front of you. The evidence will show that on October 21st, 2021, after that lunch break, the defendant once again violated those set safety rules. And during this blocking, the director had instructed him to just slowly take out that gun and just hold it at an angle. But you will see that the defendant takes it out quickly the first time, points it. And you will hear witness testimony who will tell you the first time he does it, his finger is on or around the trigger. He does it again, takes it out very fast, points it. And once again, you will hear testimony that his finger was on or around the trigger. And the evidence will show that that third and fatal time, he takes it out once again, fast, hammer's cocked, he cocks the hammer, points it straight at Ms. Hutchins, and fires that gun, sending that live bullet right into Ms. Hutchins' body. You will learn that this bullet was a .45 caliber round that entered Ms. Hutchins' body right underneath her right underarm. It perforated her right lung. It traveled through her spine, lacerating her spinal cord, and then it exited on the left side of her back. That bullet then went into Joel Souza's right shoulder, and it came to rest in his back, from where doctors removed it once he was transported to...
Wow, imagine that. Imagine having a bullet wound. This Joel Souza, he's got a bullet wound now, and the bullet that caused his bullet wound not only nearly killed him, it did go through and kill his colleague. That's gotta be rough, huh? Every time you have a shower, there it is.
St. Vincent's Hospital here in Santa Fe. You will learn, ladies and gentlemen, that Ms. Hutchins did not have the same fate. You will see the aftermath of the shooting, and you will see medics frantically working to save Ms. Hutchins, to stabilize her, to transport her, to airlift her to UNM Hospital. But the damage from that bullet was too much. Ms. Hutchins succumbed to her injuries and bled to death. The evidence will show that meanwhile, after the shooting, the defendant began to claim he didn't pull the trigger. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that's not.
Oh, was my microphone not on? Sorry, guys. I don't even know what I was saying. I was saying how sad it is that this young professional woman got a job working on set, on location, New Mexico, with Alec Baldwin. You know, huge, great start to the career, great opportunity, great job. Okay, it's a budget film, but you know, it's only up from here, right? We're working with Alec Baldwin. Her family back home, they're all so proud. They're telling everyone she's working with Alec Baldwin. And then Alec Baldwin shoots her and she bleeds to death. You know, gotta watch out for those things that make you feel lucky in life as well sometimes. Sometimes those are the ones that can kill you.
Not possible. You will hear from Mr. Pieta himself, who will tell you that gun will not discharge without a pull of the trigger. You will hear from firearms experts who will tell you that gun will not discharge without a pull of that trigger. The evidence will show that law enforcement officials arrived at the scene on October 21st after the shooting and immediately took this gun into their custody. Then later, they asked the FBI for assistance in processing this gun for forensics and examination. You will learn that the gun and some ammunition that was taken from the set and from PDQ arms were sent to the FBI for analysis. You will learn.
How do you think the FBI feel when, you know, a state agency contacts them and says, listen, can you give us assistance on processing the weapon? You know, they must be like, again, what is this? This is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, okay? We're not here to process your weapons and give assistance. You've got the machine and we've shown you how to use it. You're just trying to give us your job.
Learned that the gun first went to the DNA section of the lab, where a DNA analyst found the defendant's DNA on this gun. And then the gun was transferred to the firearms and tool mark section of the lab, where a firearms examiner examined this gun very carefully and closely. Bryce Ziegler, who is the firearms examiner for the FBI, will tell you that when he received this firearm, he first examined it. He didn't see any defects, didn't see any modifications. He tried and he checked the hammer in the 3 different positions, cocking positions. He checked the quarter cock position, fine. Checked the half cock position, fine. Check the full cock position. Fine. And when he held it in the full cock position, you will hear that hammer held until he pulled the trigger. You will also hear that Mr. Ziegler test fired this gun 12 different times. And each time that gun fired as it was designed. Each time when he pulled that trigger, it fired. And he will tell you that not once did this gun malfunction or discharge on its own. Now, the evidence will show that because the defendant had been claiming that he didn't pull the trigger, Mr. Ziegler suggested one last test to the Sheriff's Department. Mr. Ziegler told the Sheriff's Department that he could do what's called an accidental discharge test. He obtained authorization to do this test, and you will hear that he left that test for last because that test could potentially damage the gun. Mr. Ziegler went forward after he received this authorization and conducted the accidental discharge test. And you will hear, ladies and gentlemen, that during that test, a couple of the internal components of this firearm damaged. You will hear that the trigger sear and the full cock hammer notch were damaged during the accidental discharge testing. The evidence will show, however, that before this accidental discharge testing by the FBI, this gun functioned and worked perfectly fine. You'll see the video footage of the multiple occasions during which...
What is that? Is that part of the gun? Like components?
Which the defendant used this firearm on the set, and each time he fired it, it was working just fine. And in fact, you'll hear evidence that the defendant himself admitted in December of 2021 that this gun didn't have any mechanical problems. You will hear from the two of the country's leading experts on firearms forensics, Michael Haig and Lucian Haig. And they will tell you that they...
What, they're brothers or what? The Haigs. You shouldn't use brothers. That makes it look like they're in cahoots, you know. Yes, one of them owes the other one some money.
They examined the revolver and the damaged pieces extensively. They will tell you that the damage to the full cock trigger notch is consistent with the accidental discharge testing that was conducted by the FBI. Lucian Haig will tell you that in August of 2023, he examined the trigger sear, the other piece, and that when he looked at it initially with the naked eye, there was nothing wrong with it. He couldn't see anything. But then he put it under the microscope, and he noticed some kind of rough microscopic diagonal lines on the surface of the trigger sear. And since at the time he did not know how Mr. Ziegler had conducted the accidental discharge test, he opined that these very small microscopic lines were likely not caused by the FBI accidental discharge testing, but he could not exclude that as the source of those lines. Then a few weeks ago, Mr. Haig will tell you that he spoke with Mr. Ziegler and he learned how Mr. Ziegler had conducted the accidental discharge test. Mr. Ziegler explained that he affixed that firearm onto a fixed platform and then struck the firearm on 6 different planes with a rubber mallet. And Mr. Ziegler explained to Mr. Haig that he had not affixed the mallet to another fixed device. Instead, he did it freehand. Mr. Haig will tell you, with his 50 plus years of experience as a firearms forensics expert, he opined or concluded that those very tiny microscopic diagonal lines on the surface of the trigger sear were likely caused by the FBI's accidental discharge test. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that regardless of how those tiny microscopic lines got on that trigger sear, these firearms experts will tell you that those would not affect the functionality of this firearm. At the end of this case, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to conclude and be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that on October 21st, 2021, that gun the defendant had asked to be assigned worked perfectly fine as it was designed, and that the fatal and one of the main problems that afternoon of October 21st was that the defendant didn't do a gun safety check with that inexperienced armorer. He pointed the gun at another human being, cocked the hammer, and pulled that trigger in reckless disregard for Ms. Hutchins' safety. And you will be convinced that the only true and just verdict in this case, so that true justice can be served, is a verdict of guilty to involuntary manslaughter. Thank you.
I thought there was going to be a round of applause. That was pretty pitch perfect, especially the end. Very strong. None of this we expect to prove to you, ladies and gentlemen. By the end of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, we expect you to deliver a verdict of guilty on all counts. None of that, no. You will be convinced. And you will be voting guilty. Because you will agree that it's the only way for true justice to be served in this case. Very strong. Okay, straight on to the defense. Is it? Remember, guys, to like, share, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We still want to, we're past 1,000 now. Is there any point in going any higher? Should we just quit? Maybe we should just quit. But while we're still making up our mind about that, please subscribe to the channel. Well, and what is our week going to be looking like? It's the weekend. I guess we'll do Alec Baldwin for the weekend. Or should we do something else? Should we go back to Chris Watts? Nicole Kessinger? Do we dare? Maybe we'll do that. I also want to do a comparison video between Chris Watts and his confession tapes and another one, which some of you may not see because it's English. But we'll get to that.
Mr. Spiro?
Just touch the screen. No? I have to touch it harder. Yes, you're talking.
And his lawyers don't look as good as Johnny Depp's either. So he's not got as nice a car, and he's not got a cool song playing when he arrives at court. Hasn't even got his own. Johnny Depp has his own little parking area. And Johnny Depp's lawyers, they look like they were just born like that, right? Just came out of the womb, a fully clothed lawyer with a special ring, some legal guild ring. A suit that costs more than your car. These guys, well, let's give them a shot, huh?
proceed? Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. This was an unspeakable tragedy, but Alec Baldwin committed no crime. He was an actor acting, playing the role of Harlan Rust. An actor playing a character can act in ways that are lethal, that just aren't lethal on a movie set. These cardinal rules, they're not cardinal rules on a movie set. And I don't have to tell you much more about this because you've all seen gunfights in movies.
What, gun safety doesn't apply on a movie set? What are you saying, man? So, of course it does. It more so because of the action involved, right? The guns are out more on a movie set, right? You're more careful. That's a bad start. That doesn't make any sense. The jury could just say, what are you talking about, man? He's saying that, listen to what he's saying.
They're not cardinal rules on a movie set.
The cardinal rules, like, you know, don't point a gun at someone that you're not willing to blow away. They don't apply on a movie set, guys, because actors have to pretend to shoot each other for the film. You've seen films. You've all seen films.
And I don't have to tell you much more about this because you've all seen gunfights in movies. And the reason that can happen is because safety is ensured before the actor. On this movie set, there were people responsible for ensuring the safety of the set and the firearm. Those people failed in their duties, but Alec Baldwin committed no crime. The most critical issue in this case is how a real bullet got on a movie set. The evidence will show that real bullets are never supposed to be on movie sets. Movie sets use dummies and blanks.
This is better, you know. This is taking, okay, there is blame, but it's not here. Safety is supposed to be coming before the actor. You know. Is this the Brady violation? Because isn't Brady about naming another suspect? Anyone know that?
Movie sets use dummies, fake inert bullets that look like real bullets, they don't go bang, for when you want a close-up of the gun. You can't tell them apart from live bullets by looking at them, which is why live bullets can be nowhere near a movie set. And if the director wants a shot of the gun going, you know, bang, poof, there's blanks that they can use. And those blanks look nothing like real bullets. And they are used for those shooting scenes.
Well, they're usually in a box labeled blanks, and the live rounds are in another box labeled live rounds, right? Isn't that how it normally works? Do people mix them up? Do you just get a bucket and say, well, give me one of everything?
And, you know, they'll play these videos that they described of Alec's, you know, firearm in the movie going bang, poof. You know, and people are conditioned to seeing people firing weapons and thinking that's a dangerous act. That's a dangerous act. And they will play those videos and give you that image to try to tarnish him in your eyes. But that's not what happened here. On this set, there was a real bullet, something that should never be on a movie set, something which has nothing to do with making a movie. And you will hear no evidence, not one word, that Alec Baldwin had anything to do with that real bullet being brought onto that set. The second critical issue in this case is, why did a real bullet get loaded into a prop movie gun? It is undisputed that the bullet was loaded into the gun by the armorer, the person on set whose responsibility it was to ensure the gun was safe. And so picture that moment of the armorer placing a live bullet into that firearm. You know, you hear the prosecutor say, you know, he did this or he performed in a certain way. He picked out the biggest gun as his prop. It's to tarnish him in your eyes. You will hear no evidence whatsoever. No evidence that anything Mr. Baldwin did, that something he did in that moment, that horrible moment when she put that bullet in that gun, none of it had anything to do with Alec Baldwin. And finally, the first assistant.
Why is she holding her neck like that? Her head has not moved. It's like she's really trying to listen, right? Really like trying to listen to something on the other side of the house. You know, what is that about?
Anything to do with Alec Baldwin. And finally, the first assistant director's job, the head of safety, Dave Halls, checks it before it goes to the actor. And he will tell you he made a tragic mistake. He failed to detect a live bullet. And Alec Baldwin had nothing to do with that either. So all this evidence that the prosecutor just outlined, all of it, has nothing to do with these critical issues. Nothing. Which leads us to this.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up, Neverly. That's nice and clear. So, just so everybody has the info, a Denny violation is the third-party culprit blaming someone else, right? But a Brady violation is undisclosed or suppressed evidence. I bet you can have both of them at the same time. If there was suppressed evidence about a third-party culprit, that's Brady Denny.
The evidence will show that on a movie set, safety has to occur before the gun is placed in the actor's hands. In this case, this unique case on a movie set, the prop gun was placed in Mr. Baldwin's hands and cold gun was announced.
Well, what if it's a machete? What if we give Harrison Ford a machete that has been fully checked and he wants to be a dick? You know, starts waving it around, starts trying to open a coconut with it, you know. There's common sense as well, you know. So, I don't know, what could he have done? I think he should have come unprepared and just trusted himself to go against whatever the prosecutor put out. Sometimes that's the best way to do it. He's memorized this. He's got the whole thing worked out. And when you do that, it seems stale. If you don't prepare anything, but make sure you know your facts and can spin them any which way, just go with nothing and trust yourself to pull it off. That's the best way. That's what I'd do.
Meaning it had been checked and double checked by those responsible to ensure the gun was safe. It was just a prop. They all thought it was just a prop and could do no harm. The actor's job is to act, to rehearse, to choreograph his moves, to memorize his lines. He's Harlan Rust. He's an outlaw running for his life, who in the incident in question, he's pulling a six-shooter to try to defend himself. That's why the gun has to be safe before it gets into the actor's hands. His mind is somewhere else, in the being of another, a century away, an outlaw. He must be able to take that weapon and use it as the person he's acting would. To wave it, to point it, to pull the trigger like actors do, in ways that would be lethal in the real world, but are not lethal on a movie set. And I'm going to show you that scene now before lunch. And if we could just play action.
Baldwin's watching his own lawyer like it's an audition, right? When you've been acting for as long as Alec Baldwin, you see everything as an act, right? And certainly what the lawyer is doing or trying to do is acting. I mean, if he was just up there talking, not projecting himself to this place of expression that he's almost doing. But now we're going to see Alec Baldwin try and act, right? You know, don't get me wrong. The only thing I watch with Alec Baldwin is Glengarry Glen Ross, you know, the David Mamet movie. And he's only in it for 8 minutes, but it's the best 8 minutes that there is of anything. Apart from that, where do I know Alec Baldwin from? Well, he was in Friends, and he did that Trump impression. I'm not big on his movies. I don't think I've really seen any of them.
I'm gonna go find some help.
I don't need no damn help.
You're gonna die if I don't.
He's wounded on the run.
I don't need no damn help. Well, it looked like a shit movie anyway. I'm gonna go get some help. I don't need any damn help.
Can play again. Continue.
All in rust. Did you stand up nice and slow, tossing your weapons you have?
He's on the church pew, bleeding, his hand gripping the revolver. He would defend himself against the men in the movie. Play.
One more. You good? Ready? All in rust. Did you get up nice and slow, tossing the weapons you have?
Well, how close can I get right there?
Joey, I'm gonna wait to give you that line till he lands, till camera lands.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Draw your gun and look up. Point your gun, okay?
Okay, which way? Camera right or left?
This way, for now.
So camera left for now. I'll stand right here for you, Alec. So whip.
Oh, which way? Camera right or left? So, camera left? What a pro, huh? I still can't work out what that means. It means his right, yeah? Camera right or left? So, camera left?
Spit out. Yeah. Okay, well, let me get this all greased. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Okay, ready? Ready.
And set.
Ready. Ready on camera left.
I'll stand right.
Really getting some insight into the inner workings of cinema, aren't we, guys? Camera right or left?
Right here for you, Alec. So whip it out. Yeah. Okay.
Whip it out to the left. Camera left.
Let me get this all greased. Ready? Okay, ready? Okay, ready? Ready.
And set. Ready, and action.
Arlen Russ.
Do one more just like that. You got one more? Yeah.
Ready?
We want him to do it again. There's no danger.
Was that good? Was that good acting? It wasn't even quick. I've seen people do that so much cooler than that.
Just like that. You got one more? Yeah. We want him to do it again. There's no danger. They want him to do it again. And set. Ready. And action.
Arlen Rust. Nice.
Is that the one where he cocked it back?
It's a scene similar to scenes we've all seen in movies and television, performed by thousands of actors. And the scene that continues after lunch is the same scene. It's just not, unfortunately, captured on videotape. And the scene they envisioned and acted out, that prop gun was positioned in the afternoon so close to the camera that you could see inside, that you could feel it. You could feel that it was loaded. And it was loaded, of course, with dummies. Dummies to make it look like a real gun. But this one time.
I thought you said gummies. Gummy bears. The gun was loaded with gummy bears. Sugar bears.
One of those dummies was a real bullet. The real bullet was not known to anyone in that church. Amongst the actors, directors, and crew in the scene, Everyone was doing exactly how they go about their business every day on a movie, not as if some lethal element had been included in the environment. You will see creativity and movement and everyone talking and vibrant. No one had any idea that this venomous, toxic element had been inserted into this magic they were creating. But it did. It entered that place. It killed an amazing person. They wounded another, and it changed.
See, Malone, which is the Baldwin in The Usual Suspects? Is that Stephen Baldwin? I think it is, right?
Lives forever. And so to find out what happened on that movie set, you need to do something that the prosecutors could never do. You have to step back and remember what they were doing on a movie set. What were Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer, Joel Souza, the director, and Alec Baldwin, the actor, doing on Bonanza Creek Ranch? You know, movies and magic have always been closely associated. The first people that made movies were magicians. And this imagination that happens in movies, you know, King Kong.
The first people that made movies were magicians. Okay. Movies and magic have always
were magicians. And this imagination that happens in movies, you know, King Kong, he can stand above a city, and Superman can fly, horses and snakes and gun battles. For this to all work.
Horses and snakes are real, man. What did he just go through? That list of examples. King Kong, bigger than a city. What was it? Horses and snakes.
And this imagination that happens in movies, you know, King Kong, he can stand above a city, and Superman can fly, horses and snakes and gun.
That's not. Where did horses and snakes come from? Okay, I get that he's not saying that that's fantasy, but why is he saying horses and snakes? Let's see if we can pinpoint that, guys.
People that made movies were magicians.
Now that the trial's been cancelled, it's these points that matter. Why is he saying horses and snakes?
And this imagination that happens in movies, you know, King Kong, he can stand above a city, and Superman can fly, horses and snakes and gun battles. For this to all work, for cinematography, what Helena did to work, for acting to work.
Oh, I guess it's other things in the movie, right? Because it's in the West. They've got horses and there's poisonous snakes, and they've just done that with special effects.
Work. You have to be so close to the barrier of real and imagined that the viewer feels that they're there, that it's real. The viewer can't see strings from the stuntman. The stuntman must leap. The snake must hiss. And guns happen in movies.
Alec Baldwin doesn't look very impressed, does he? He's thinking, this guy has cost how much? And he's been practicing this for a year?
All over this country for many decades. Bang, bang. You've all seen it. Guns have been an element of theater, and film, and television since the earliest of times. Depictions of war and combat.
Yeah, Bob. Sadly, the trial has been thrown out of the court in New Mexico. The jury have all gone home, and there's no cause for a retrial. It's just, that's it now. It's all done. He's acquitted because there was a Brady violation, undisclosed evidence. And I think we know what it was, but I'm not sure what it was, because I just heard during this stream.
Spartacus, it stirs audiences because it feels real. Later films, Platoon, Apocalypse Now, they showed the unvarnished realities of war. This
Spartacus, Platoon, and Apocalypse Now. What is it? This is like you don't need to go through a list of movies. You could just talk about genres, you know.
This ranch in Santa Fe, it had been the scene to many gunfights and movie scenes well before Alec was even born. Laramie, Butch and the Sundance Kid, and these westerns.
Your Honor, may we approach?
He's listing them out again. His favorite spaghetti westerns.
The evidence will show that guns are in movies because movies are about people's lives and guns are in people's lives. So let's talk about the evidence and how the lethal bullet got there. How did this happen and how did it unfold? The evidence will be the following. Everybody on...
Wow, he's turned that around on the Second Amendment, hasn't he? He's going, the reason that there were guns in the movies is because movies are about people's lives and guns are in people's lives. So he's blaming the right to bear arms.
A movie set has a role. The armorer armors, the director directs, the actor acts. They work in harmony, but they have a division of responsibility. Safety being important has the first assistant director, whose name is Dave Halls, above the armorer and sort of the safety of the set. And on that day in question, the cast and the creative directors and crew in the church, it's a fake church. Their actors are not in their normal clothes, it's costumes. There's debris falling from the ceiling, it's fake debris. And they yell out cold gun. And that is an important term you're going to learn in this case. It means that the gun is cold. No one need worry. But even that requires a little bit more explanation. Cold gun doesn't mean no live bullets. There are for sure 100% no live bullets on movie sets. That's unimaginable. Cold means you don't even have the fake blank poof in it. You don't need to worry even about eye gear or earplugs for that fake bang. It means it's empty, inert, cosmetic, can do no harm. Cold guns can't hurt people. It's impossible, literally impossible for a cold gun to hurt somebody. You could hurt you more by dropping it on your foot. And that's why these artists are carrying on in their art. Cold gun, all clear to go. And the armorer on this set hands a prop gun to Alec, like she had done times before, like people.
That's why these artists are carrying on in their work. Or as the prosecution would say it, playing make-believe. When you play make-believe as an idiot child.
People have done with him in movies for a generation, and he's there. He's in the movie set church with his movie set gear and his holster, and he takes his movie set gun. And he's deeply focused in that moment on his character. The artists, the crew members, they're moving around him. Again, no eye gear or earplugs, nothing to protect against. They carry on, they practice, they rehearse, they take a lunch break. Some folks leave, some don't. They continue the scene. Dave Halls, the head of safety, is actually practicing the movement so they can frame the footage that will happen after lunch. And the prop cold gun comes back. The prop cold gun comes back, cold gun. They call it again. Same gun, again, safe. The first assistant director, Dave Halls, head of safety for the entire film, a man with decades of experience, comes and takes the additional step and inspects the gun, verifies again, cold gun. Everyone relax. Go back to focus on the making of a movie. There's nothing in the gun that can hurt anybody. And Alex sits on that pew. And the creative directors, the crew, they're moving around him, in front of him. And Harlan Rust, he begins, like the prosecutor told you, rehearsing, acting. This is a completely mundane, uneventful, routine act on a movie set. And so everybody carries on. Nobody fathomed, imagined, foresaw any possible danger. They moved around Alec as he practiced his draw. As the prosecutor put it, working out the details of the move and the actor. He does it again, does it in a different way. Nobody bats an eye. And they will tell you that the investigation revealed that Baldwin was practicing drawing and pointing the weapon of the scene with guidance and instruction from Helena Hutchins and Joel Souza. The gun goes off. Everybody's shocked. Alec is startled. He immediately says, I didn't mean to shoot I didn't pull the trigger. Immediately. What the hell just happened? They collectively explain. Shock turns to panic. 911 is called.
We need an ambulance out at Bonanza Creek Ranch right now. We've had 2 people shot on a movie set accidentally. You said someone was shot? 2 people accidentally with gunshots at on movie set, Bonanza Creek Ranch.
Yeah, there was an accident and a gun accidentally went off and 2 people were killed accidentally.
Send it. I'll connect you with medical dispatch. You don't need that. Santa Fe Fire and EMS, what's the location of the emergency? Bonanza Creek Ranch has had 2 people accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately. Okay. This fucking AD that yelled at me at lunch because asking about revisions. This motherfucker. Did you see him lean over my desk and yell at me?
Wow, there's something really real in her voice, huh? When you're making a call like that, like, okay, we need help. We need the full weight of help right now. And then she's like, the fucking AD. What oh, VD, video director, is it? Yeah. What did he say to me at lunch?
I'll connect you with medical dispatch. You don't need that. Santa Fe Fire and EMS, what's the location of the emergency? Bonanza Creek Ranch has had 2 people accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately. Okay. This fucking AD that yelled at me at lunch because asking about revisions. This motherfucker. Did you see him lean over my desk and yell at me? He's got the gun. He's responsible for what happened in the now, Mimi? No. I'm a strip supervisor. How many people are injured? 2 that I know of. I was sitting, we were rehearsing, and it went off, and I ran out.
Accidentally shot on a movie set with a prop gun. The fucking AD, it was his responsibility. Not a word about Alec Baldwin. While they're en route, police, EMS, the cast and crew are outside.
What do you mean? What do you mean not a word about Alec Baldwin? Why would that come up on the 911 call? Listen, Alec Baldwin is here and he just shot the director. They'd think it was a prank, right?
Trying to figure out what happened, frantic. Talking to those responsible for the prop and its safety. The armorer is yelling, sorry. Hall's the first assistant director is panicked. The prop master, Sarah Zachary, I don't know exactly where she is at that point, but they check the gun feverishly. They take the ammo out of the gun. They look at it, what the heck happened? They go back to the prop cart that houses the ammo. They're touching the gun and manipulating the gun, emptying it. They go and move some stuff off the prop cart, trying to figure it out. Sarah Zachary, the head of props, will tell you she threw some stuff out. And eventually, of course, EMS and police arrive pretty soon thereafter. And Helena Hutchins and Joel Souza, the director, are transported to the hospital where Helena tragically passes away. And I'm not going to be asking questions about her condition after she was wounded or the medical interventions that followed. Her injuries, the efforts to revive her, are not in dispute in this case. The evidence will be there. The prosecutor may present some of these emotionally charged images, but we're not going to be asking questions about that, and it's not an issue in dispute in this case. You jurors are allowed to ask yourselves whether or not that should be the focus or the focus should be the evidence. So police enter the scene. They have lapel cameras. Thank God they have lapel cameras. You want to see what happens? The evidence will show you can play the videotape. Want to see if they take the right gun? Play the videotape. Want to make sure what the people said or did they're remembering correctly? Play the videotape. And so they immediately...
That was wasted. You know, he could have made that so much better. Want to see if they took the correct gun? Play the videotape. He should have said, do you think the police took the right gun? They didn't. It's on the tape.
Immediately recover the prop gun and they secure it. That's off to the side. And the reason that you preserve things in the moment is so that you know what existed in the moment, the evidence in the moment, the people and the witnesses and what they said in the moment. These folks, the members of Rust, they'd never been through anything like this before. That is why what they originally said matters so much in this case. If you remember anything I say today as the evidence proceeds, remember that. Look at the evidence of what the people of Rust said and did that day. Life changes, memories change. There are human motivations, internal pressure, external pressure. That's why preservation is so important. So the police continue. In terms of the prop cart and the prop ammo that's on the cart, it's manipulated, altered, kind of messy. And, you know, at this accidental shooting on a movie set, the police begin to make some mistakes. No one had ever investigated a prop gun on a movie set before. They recover the prop gun, but they don't wear gloves.
I bet that's not true. No one had ever investigated a prop gun on a movie set. Come on. I've seen LA Confidential.
They don't have the prop car inside the crime scene. Someone moves it onto the crime scene. People start touching it and showing, okay, this is a dummy, this is a blank. And then they make another mistake that matters in this case with some more significance, which is that they don't secure the prop truck that houses the cart. See, that cart that they roll off comes from a truck where all of the ammunition, all of the firearms are, and that's where they're stored. They don't secure the prop truck for several days. And then the prop house that supplies the truck, that supplies the cart, they don't secure for over a month. A lot of mistakes. They had never investigated a case in a movie set. But they had the prop gun. That was key. And so they needed to figure out where the live bullet came from. They had the shell casing, Starline brass.
I don't know, C. Malone. C. Malone says it sounds like they have this in the bag, even if the Tony Brady incident in court today forced a mistrial. Well, I think they're starting on the back foot. Did you see the prosecution opening? It was much stronger, I think. But, you know, let's see.
That's the sort of make. You'll hear that phrase, Starline brass. And the police were right to focus on that. That was the lethal element. And so they work outward. Makes good.
Alec Baldwin doesn't look impressed. He looks like he can see that this isn't starting well.
Good enough sense. Folks around the ammo and the gun to be interviewed at the precinct. The armorer at the precinct. She loaded the live bullet. Hall's head of safety. He double checked. And Alec walks up to the police. You'll see this early today. And he says, I'm here, whatever you want to do, whatever you need me to do. Just tell me where to go. And Sarah Zachary, the prop master who threw out the stuff at the cart, they missed her that night to bring to the precinct. But the rest of them at the precinct. And thankfully, we have the lapel cameras.
And then they cleared the gun outside after his request, and I witnessed them clear it and saw the bullets. Okay. So which one was the one that was missing? The one that fired, we don't know, but all the other ones were proper.
I can pause this. I can turn this off. Move on. I can turn this off.
It could be Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's not dead.
Move on. That was just a quick snapshot of the scene.
Let's approach this is Ms. Johnson.
They consented to the exhibit.
Whoa. No prisoners. She's taking no prisoners. That wasn't even a request. Let's approach. Very assertive, this prosecutor.
Inside the church The remaining witnesses from inside the church are interviewed on the scene. They're interviewed with lapel cameras. They're interviewed by the lead detective, Detective Cannell. And those witnesses, some of them will come in here and testify. And not a single one of them will tell you anything different than what I'm about to tell you about the evidence. The gun was double checked, verified it was a cold gun, not an actor's responsibility to check. Safety was ensured before. Alec was doing his practicing, his rehearsing, his movements. People manipulate and point guns on movie sets. The gun went off during the rehearsal. No one saw him intentionally pull the trigger. It was obviously
Okay, pretty good summary, though.
a tragic accident, but Alec committed no homicide. Alec took the gun from those charged with its safety. He did not
Short sentences, each containing no more than one idea per.
tamper with it. He did not load it himself. He did not leave it unattended. It completed his costume and his character. It was an actor handling a prop and integrating it into the character of Harlan Rust. There was a dedicated professional there, off camera, whose sole sacred responsibility was that prop safety. And Dave Halls, the head of safety, was there by her side. Everyone relied on that. And it was tragic that they let them down. He was just acting as he has done for generations, and it was the safety apparatus that failed them all. So law enforcement continues. They need to find the live bullet. That was the lethal element. So they, led by Detective Cannell, execute a search warrant on the church. And that's what law enforcement does. They immediately go to a judge. They say, this is what we need to do. They go into the church urgently before anything can be altered. They're confirming it was an accident, not a crime in the church. They search for guns and ammunition, videos and photos. There was no further answer in the church. They had the prop gun. They had all those witnesses secured. Their statements are clear. Alec had committed no crime, but the bullet was a mystery. And so they focus on the bullet, the critical lethal bullet, and how did it enter the movie set. So they had the prop cart, and then they go do the warrant on the prop truck. And so at that point, and I'm going to put up a photo so that you can see who some of these individuals are. They're trying to figure out when they go to the truck, what is the source of the lethal bullet? And so they execute a warrant on the truck approximately a week later. The Seth Kenny that you heard about in the prosecutor's opening, the supplier for the set, he's there. Sarah Zachary, the prop master, she's there. And they walk through what's inside of the prop truck with law enforcement. But there's no answer to the lethal bullet. And this case then takes on, all this pressure. The media begins swirling. Where is the lethal bullet? How did it get on that movie set? And what about that actor, Alec Baldwin, who had nothing to do with why the bullet got on the movie set? And so police and prosecutors, they work hand in hand, meeting after meeting, trying to find the lethal bullet, meeting with Seth Kenny, meeting with Sarah Zachary, the prop master, the supplier. Where is it? And about a month after the incident, Sarah Zachary finally sits down with law enforcement to answer some questions. And she explains to them that she threw away some stuff. She disposed of some stuff. And the prosecutors and police keep meeting, swirling media, and then at that point, they go to the last step, right? Done the cart, gone to the truck, met with Sarah Zachary, and they go execute a search warrant on, as the prosecutor told you, PDQ, the prop house. And again, Seth Kenny's there to greet them, let them in, and they don't find the lethal bullet. They never did. They never did. And as things roll into police and prosecutors, cell phones and photos and forensics, looking for this shiny object, they found another shiny object. Instead of trying to find the source of the lethal bullet, they focused on Mr. Baldwin. But Mr. Baldwin was like every other actor. He goes bang bang in movies. He's told when guns are cold or not. He rehearses and acts as his character. Safety proceeds before the actor. Once the actor has the prop gun, he can handle it however a person he's acting as would. A properly cleared gun can't hurt anybody. And so they told you about some of the things that Alec said in the statements that they will take or pick out a few lines from. But he won't tell you anything different, that he took a gun loaded and cleared by the armor in the AD. He made motions with the gun as he was rehearsing. He didn't intentionally pull the trigger. The gun just went off. And he does say, I didn't have a problem with the gun before. And this idea, that they said that he didn't want to check because he would offend them, in this moment, he's been doing this for 40 years, the evidence will show. And he has habits, and there are also SAG guidelines that tell actors what to do and what not to do. And the SAG guidelines don't tell actors to check the gun. You will see them. That's not the actor's role. And so I guess the point that they're trying to make is that why in this specific moment he doesn't break his habit of 40 years and check it differently and sort of insult them this one time. If he had done that and started playing with the gun in that way, they'd be saying, arrogant actor, why is he doing that? So they will play these statements, Alec's statements. You're going to hear a man in shock and grief, a father, an artist, worried about his family. You hear he's, on one of the calls, he's going to meet with the decedent's family, the Hutchins family, and he's upset about that. He will talk to law enforcement. He will call them. He doesn't need a lawyer. He didn't commit a crime. He will call them and offer to meet and speak over and over again. And ask anyone in the acting world. Actors know. Actors rely on armors and point guns and shoot guns. The Armorers Act, what they did is clear and proven. The head of safety, you will learn, took responsibility for his verification failure. But Alec committed no homicide. So law enforcement didn't have a homicide case against Alec Baldwin, but they changed the question. You heard the prosecutor tell you about this. Did he pull the trigger? Did he pull the trigger? Did he intentionally pull the trigger? And if he did, of course, that would only make his statement incorrect, right? That would mean he would have misspoke, been incorrect. And I want to stop for a moment and just tell you, because you're going to hear a lot of testimony, expert testimony like the prosecutor told you, about the gun functioning imperfectly. Did he let the hammer down when he cocked it? Did he hit the trigger? Did he, in a calculated manner, as the prosecutor made a motion, fire the gun like that? And when this issue is discussed, it's easy to sort of pull yourself into courtroom land and away from a movie set. On a movie set, you're allowed to pull the trigger. So even if he intentionally pulled the trigger like the prosecutor just demonstrated, that doesn't make him guilty of homicide. He did not know or have any reason to know that gun was loaded with a live bullet. That's the key. That live bullet is the key. That is the lethal element. But again, as the prosecutor told you, if they could prove that he intentionally pulled the trigger and he was imperfect, imprecise, wrong with what he said, then maybe you take that and you say he's lying. And if he's a liar, he committed homicide. And so what they do is they take the prop gun. They're blinded by the shine. They're blinded by trying to disprove Alec. They take it and they order a destructive test on the firearm. They order the FBI to take a test that they know will destroy the firearm. It's a pointless, unnecessary test where they blindly try to make this big case by taking a mallet and smashing the firearm. At the time that they did that, they knew that Alec had adamantly maintained, that he was manipulating the hammer and the gun just went off. That the witnesses said it went off out of nowhere. That there are these accidental discharges that happen on the set. That guns have issues in the real world. That this gun had a hair trigger. And the owner's manual of this specific gun actually says that if you load it with a live round or any round in the chamber, in that last position, and you drop it like you see a cowboy in a movie, this type of old cowboy gun can accidentally go off. I don't remember hearing anything about that. The evidence will show that. So rather than trying to answer the question of what happened, they proceed with the destructive test. They eliminate the one item that could prove what Alex said and believed. They didn't offer him a chance to test the gun. They didn't take the gun apart before they broke it and destroyed it and look at its inner workings. They didn't turn on their videotape. They just destroyed it. Can't ever be tested in the same condition it was in that day. Won't ever allow Alec to show his truth. And the destruction of this gun that you will hear in this evidence is symbolic of this entire case. Because the officers will tell you at that point, they weren't really investigating anymore. They were trying to disprove Alec, to get Alec, to have this day. And so after the destruction of the firearm, they hired some expert witnesses you heard about to pick up the pieces, so to speak. And the state retained Lucian Haig, an expert with over half a century of experience. And he will come into court and he will tell you he's never seen anything like this in his entire career. They conducted a pointless test, a test that would lead to inevitable destruction of the firearm. There were other correct tests that they could have done to prove whether or not it could have accidentally discharged. None of the experts can test the gun in the condition it was in on the day in question. Why? Not because of something that Alec Baldwin or the crew members of Rust did. They were all clear. The gun just went off. But because of something that law enforcement did. And they deprived him of that opportunity. However, Lucian Haig will tell you that in his analysis, he did find modification that he thought likely pre-existed the FBI testing. And what that modification means and how it impacted the gun is hard to perfectly know, of course. But it was a modification on an important part, the critical part of the firearm. And it was important enough for them to put into a report and to write a new opinion about. They felt this revelation had to be sent to prosecutors. And they maintained that position, that this modification was a matter of import for almost a year. And then a few weeks ago, before trial, they just took it back. They just took it back. You will get to see the circumstances of that take back. How far they would go for the shiny object. They never solved the question of the lethal bullet. They destroyed the gun, and all they were left with is Alec Baldwin and the movie they intend to put on. But because they never solved the lethal bullet, they eliminated the prop gun. There will not be one witness, not one shred of evidence in this trial that Alec knew or should have known the gun was loaded with a live round. So they can't prove. They can't prove their high-profile homicide hit. So they will proceed to then, here and now, tell you about other things, other evidence that you will hear.
Oh, he was in the cooler with William H. Macy. Yeah, he was great in that. He was the owner of the casino in Vegas, the Shangri-La.
That has nothing to do with what happened in the church on October 21st. That the movie said as a whole was improper or anything. That they hired the wrong armorer. I think I heard in opening. The evidence will show that the armorer was hired by somebody else, trained by somebody else, had done gun scenes on Rust with somebody else before Alec even got there. She was the daughter and the apprentice of the most famous and well-respected armorer in Hollywood. And she had just left serving, being an armorer for Nicolas Cage on another Western. Then they'll come in and they'll say, but what about the movie guidelines? You heard about Mr. Jorgensen, the movie guidelines, that one of the protocols wasn't followed, or there was a set safety issue about something unrelated to this, like these movie guidelines on a set or the things of Navy SEALs and NASA. The guidelines were followed. They followed the safety guidelines. Actors don't check the weapons. Safety is ensured by dedicated personnel. So they will say, but there had been accidental discharges on the set, that guns had fired accidentally prior, not related to Alec, by the way. But again, that's the people we looked at. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's fault, Sarah Zachary's fault, perhaps, Dave Hall's faults, workplace issues. Some of them will end up, and you will hear the witnesses in this case, many of them have brought civil lawsuits. And you'll hear that, in those civil lawsuits, they're presenting evidence to try to meet a burden, not a criminal beyond a reasonable doubt homicide trial burden, but they're going to try to prove their cases in civil courts. And that's where faults and accidents are at worst 99% worked out. Not here. But you'll hear these members of the Rust crew come in here. They'll try to make sense of this for you. Some of them have sued. Some of them are in grief. Some of them are in grief and have sued. And part of this grief they feel, that everybody feels, is understandable. And what they will do is they will tell you, if only we had had a second armorer. One of them will say, if only Dave Halls had checked better. If only the camera hadn't been right there and Ms. Hutchins wasn't leaning over the camera. If only I myself did this. If only Alec did that. This is natural, their testimony. It's part of the human condition. It's part of grief.
Objection, Your Honor.
None of them knew.
Yes.
The judge is pretty cool as well. You going to approach or what?
None of them knew.
Yes. Objection, Your Honor.
Their testimony. It's part of the human condition. It's part of grief.
Objection, Your Honor.
None of them knew.
Yes.
And they're really pretty going in hard, the prosecution. 2 objections in the defense's opening. Yeah, this judge is awesome.
As I was saying, the witnesses, in their grief, will look for reasons to try to make sense of this tragedy. But again, none of them knew or should have known about the lethal bullet either. No one had any idea that it was on that set or in that gun. In that world, they were all in it together. And you will hear that none of this other stuff has anything to do with those 2 critical questions we started with. Why there was a live bullet on set, why the armorer placed it in the gun, and of course, why the head of safety failed to detect it. None of it speaks to whether Alec knew or should have known those things. He didn't. No one on that set did. It was not foreseeable. You will hear that word from the witnesses and from eventually the instructions. Foreseeable. This was anything other than foreseeable. And they must prove beyond any and all reasonable doubt that this was foreseeable. Total indifference to human life, that death might occur. He's an actor. He's an actor. But here we are at a homicide trial. And so they will pull witnesses, and witnesses will be cross-examined. They will push themselves to the edge of truth and beyond. These things about, Alec didn't notice this or Alec didn't notice that. I want to make sure that you're clear on something that the evidence will show. He had been filming on that set for a handful of days. The evidence will show he had just gotten there. It's not as if he had been there for months and months and noticed things and failed things. And he had just gotten there. You don't notice every little thing when you start at a new place and when you're in the character of Harlan Rust. But they will push forward and they will have gaps in the evidence as well. Don't expect you to be hearing and for them to call the first AD head of safety. I don't know if you'll be hearing from the lead detective, Canal, who investigated this case. The lead detective, or the sergeant that supervised him, Sergeant Zook. I don't think you'll hear from Mr. Schilling, who was the lead investigator for the prosecutors. And so as you hear this, you jurors can assess about that gap of evidence. And there's one thing that I can tell you you will not hear also. You will not hear from an actor or an expert in acting. And so they will play the videotapes of Alec Baldwin, the actor, acting. They will show you perhaps over and over again him in shooting scenes. Bad Alec shooting a gun the wrong way in a movie scene. They will try to get you to picture that and forget that this was a movie set in the first place. And you will see actors in a Western acting. And your mind might go to your favorite gun scene in your favorite movie. You may picture actors and actresses doing exactly what you see here. The other actors in Rust doing the same thing that Mr. Baldwin was doing. But when you come back from that moment, remember, this is a homicide trial. And you will see soon that the reason they play those videos of him over and over is because they don't have any evidence of actual homicide. And you will learn the truth. Not a day goes by when we don't wish Alec had saved her life. But never, the witnesses will tell you, in the history.
That was a good way to take the attention off those videos that they're going to keep showing, you know. He says the reason that they're going to keep showing those to you over and over again, making you watch bad Alec, the reason that they're going to keep showing those to you is so that you don't notice that there isn't any other evidence. That's great, right? Because now their attention is going to be on looking for the other evidence rather than accepting that, you know, video stuff as anything. That was very good. I'm going to play it again.
It's of actual homicide, and you will learn the truth. Not a day goes by when we don't wish Alec had saved your life. But never, the witnesses will tell you, in the history, is something that an actor has done. Intercepted a live bullet from a prop gun. No actor in history. No one could have imagined or expected an actor to do that. So,
intercepted a live bullet. I mean, what do you mean? Like, catch the bullet?
just remember that truth. So when they cry out justice, justice is truth. This was an unspeakable tragedy. Alec Baldwin committed no crime. Thank you.
All right, thank you. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our morning bathroom break. So please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Follow what Mr. Bing tells you to do. And we'll see you back here about 20 of. All right, thank you.
All rise to the jury.
All right, thank you.
All rise.
Yeah, this judge is great. Not afraid of anything. You could put her in a cage with a couple of tigers and she'd come out. You know. Okay, guys, we're going to cut it off there. 2 hours 42. Quite a long stream, huh? Don't forget to like, share, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you real soon with some more content, some even better content. Now that this trial's been cancelled, what are we going to do? Where should we focus? Maybe we'll put a poll out to the community, so keep an eye out for that. Yeah. Or just let us know in the comments, guys. Which case should we do? Which case should we go back to? Which case should we move on to? I don't know. Anyway, we'll see you real soon. Bye.